In order to set up a meeting through BigBlueButton, all you have to do is access your course in Schoology. Once you are in the course for which you are setting up the meeting, you will go to the left-hand side of your course in those different options, and you will go down to the BigBlueButton Conference tab, and you will click the tab, and then you're taken to a page that will show you any scheduled conferences or any conferences that are in progress, and that means active. So either they are scheduled or they are currently in progress. And just an FYI, if you were to click on the completed tab, you would see all of the previous conferences. If you chose not to record any of those, you will not have a play option, and it will simply read no recordings found for this conference. If you did record any of those, you would be able to press play, and then that would show you the recording. And this is the same view, aside from the settings gear, this is the same view that students would have in their course. So they would open up their course, the BigBlueButton conference tool would be on the left-hand side, and they would have the ability to see active and complete courses, or active and complete meetings. In order to create a new conference, you will click Create a New Conference. You will title the new conference, and you will pick a start date and time, and click Create. Now, you will see this is a scheduled conference, and the way you know it's scheduled is because the title is just text. There is no link to click into the conference. It's just text. There's a start time. The status says not started, so you know it's scheduled. This is exactly how the students will see it as well. They will see that there is a potential conference, but they won't be able to access it. They will not see the start conference because students obviously cannot start the conference themselves. Once you're ready to begin the conference, you will click Start Conference. Now, unfortunately, you're not able to go into the conference and then leave and still have this same conference set. So I know sometimes instructors will want to go in ahead of time to add different materials and make sure their settings are correct. But once you do that, you'll have to remain in the conference. Otherwise, the conference remains open, and if you leave, or if you yourself just close your window, the conference is still open, which means that other students could enter the conference early, and then they would be in there unsupervised. So, it's fine if you want to go in a half hour early, but just know once you start the conference, students will be able to access the conference as well. The settings gear allows you to edit the title, the start time, end time, or delete the conference. So unless you're changing the title, you really wouldn't need to use this. In order to access the conference, you will click Start Conference. And let me mention that I am using Firefox because it's a lot easier to show you with the browser that BigBlueButton recommends. And the main reason that we recommend you using Firefox is that if you want to share your screen, you have to. Chrome does not support the desktop sharing feature, so you will need to use Firefox if you want to do that. And you should let your students know that as well. In case they're sharing their screen for a presentation, they'll need to use Firefox. So to begin the conference, you'll simply click Start Conference, and you'll see it opens up a new tab. So if you were to go back to the active and completed page, you will now see the status has changed, so it's in progress. And this is a nice way to know if you have an issue and you have to log out, or if something happens during the meeting and you get logged out. You can still see if the meeting is in progress or if it has ended. And now you can see that the conference title is linked, and this is what students would see. They wouldn't see the end conference, but they would see the fact that the title is now clickable, and that would be the instruction you would give them in the update, is to click on the title when they're ready to enter the conference. So it's going to ask you how you want to join for audio. You'll want to join with the microphone. Again, you would want students to know in your update to the course that they should enter as a listen-only member, unless, of course, you're having them present, then you would have them enter as microphone. You will, if they do enter as microphone, you will be able to mute them and change those settings if need be. So you'll click on microphone, and it will ask you if it's okay to use your microphone, and you will click allow. And then they'll take you through an audio test. Right now in my headset, I can hear myself. It's an echo. So I'm going to click yes, I can hear. And then it gives you a reminder to record, which is nice. So each time you enter a conference, it will remind you to record if you would like. So I will click OK. Saying OK does not mean that you are recording. It simply means that you acknowledge your ability to record. So I'll click OK. And then if you wanted to, you could start recording there. I would wait to start recording until your session actually begins, but just to know that feature's there. So you'll see three main windows when you open up BigBlueButton. You'll see the users window. When students are in here, they would simply be listed. And because they're accessing BigBlueButton through Schoology, you would see their first and last name. So they don't have to log in and use a guest username or anything like that. You would just see their names. And the media next to them, this would be an easy way to see if they are in with a microphone or audio only. You would see this microphone next to their name if they clicked microphone, and you would just see a speaker if they only picked the audio option. Here you have your presentation page, and then over here you have chat. Now, before we get into uploading presentations and chat, I do want to show you a few settings that we would like you to set for each conference. And this is just a best practice to ensure that students are able to remain focused throughout the presentation. If you go to the users window, you will see the gear that says settings. You will click on the gear, and here you can see that you can clear all status icons. So if students are raising their hands or adding a smiley face, and I will show you that in a minute. But whatever their status may be, you can clear those. You can mute all users. However, that would mean that you then mute yourself as well. So if you do want to mute the students, you would click mute all users except presenter, and then it would say your name. But what we want you to do each time you enter the conference is go to lock viewers, and then you're given a few features that you can lock. So the webcam feature you should lock for students, and that essentially means that the students will not be able to access their webcam in the conference. Unless you have some sort of conference where students are presenting and you need to see their face, we would like you to keep this locked. Microphone is your discretion. We would say for the most part you would want to keep that locked so students are unable to use the microphones. Unless you have a presentation session, then you would leave that unlocked. Public chat should be left unlocked. That's because we do want students interacting with one another, and we would like them to have the ability to type in the public chat. You'll be able to see the public chat. The public chat will be recorded, so there really is no harm in having that open. Now, if you wanted to present something and you didn't want any students sharing anything, or perhaps you're going on a tour and you're not sure if they'll be able to see the public chat, you could throughout, if there's maybe a period of 10 minutes where you don't want them to have access, you could lock that and then unlock it later. So that is an option. We would always like you to lock the private chat. And the reason being, with BigBlueButton, students do have the option to message other students directly, and that would be in a private chat setting. And we don't want them to have that ability because that just opens up a can of worms. So we would always like you to keep the private chat locked. Now, if you as the instructor wanted to message a student privately, let's say a student is kind of spamming the chat and maybe they're saying inappropriate things or they're off task, you could still message the student and only the student would see it, but the student would not be able to respond to you. So you could just say, hey Priya, I appreciate your communication, however, you're off task. Please make sure your comments are helpful and on task. So always have that private chat locked. And then you'll also want to lock the layout. And that's simply so that students don't play around with the presentation. So they'll see users, they'll see presentation, and they'll see chat. If the layout is unlocked, then they could change the layout for themselves. So they could make the chat the largest option, or they could make users the largest option. And we really just don't need them to have that kind of control. So webcam, private chat, and layout are the 3 that we would like you to have locked for each conference. And then the microphone and public chat are up to your discretion. So you would then click apply, and then you're ready to begin your conference. And next we'll go over how to upload presentations, different presentation features, and then a few options with chat. So if you're ready to upload a presentation, once you've logged in, you will simply go to the presentation window. And just as a side note, you can always minimize windows. Really, the only one I think you would want to minimize is the webcam, since I don't believe too many instructors use the webcams. So you can simply minimize, and then it's not there. It really doesn't matter if it is there, but that's just an option. In order to upload a presentation, you will simply go to the bottom left-hand corner of the presentation window and click the icon that says Upload Presentation. You will select a file, and it does say for best results to upload a PDF, but you do have, I have had PowerPoints work, Word documents work, so you do have options. So let's say I wanted to upload a presentation. You then have to click Upload. So just because I added that, it doesn't mean that it has uploaded. You want to still click the Upload button, and it'll go through that little progress, starting to convert. And then it'll automatically show your presentation. Next, you have several features that you can use to annotate your presentation. So the next slide icon is down below. So you can either do this as you present, before you present, however you would like to do it. But if you hover to the right-hand side, you'll see these different features. So we have a pencil feature if you want to point something out. And you can also change the thickness of the pencil too, just by moving this little triangle up. So if I wanted to maybe have a larger arrow, that's probably too large, I can always click Undo Annotation if I want to. So you would just continue to click Undo. And you can also change the color of the annotation as well, just an FYI. So you have a pencil, a rectangle, a circle, triangle, a line. You can add text, and you can also clear all annotations. So let's say I kind of mock up this page. You know, I'm talking, and then I don't want this to be saved. I would simply just click the X, clear all annotations. Okay, you continue clicking through as you would like. And you can change the zoom here. If you want to zoom in on a certain part, just make sure that you then click the pan and zoom so that you can change the view on the presentation. So again, you zoom out and you can't really move the presentation, but as you zoom in and you want to maybe focus on one part, you do have that ability. And I know it throws me off a little bit. The standard cursor has that red dot, which to me it looks like I'm going to draw a red line, but it's just so that you can follow your mouse. It doesn't mean that you're going to draw a red line each time. So you would just simply click through here, so on and so forth. If you wanted to upload another presentation or another file, you would just simply select the file and you would find the file. I'm going to upload a blank document to show you how you kind of have to work around a whiteboard. So if you simply keep a saved blank Word document on your desktop or in your documents and you upload that, this is the way BigBlueButton says to use a whiteboard. So it's not necessarily the most intuitive way. You know, there isn't a whiteboard option. It's simply upload a blank document and there you go. But it still serves its purpose. So you have your, right, I would want to obviously change the thickness there. But if you wanted to write out a problem, you know, for math, you could do that. You could text, you could add text if you prefer. All right, you have different options there. Clear annotations. You can also add images. I do want to go back to the upload presentation. So now you see as you add them, and this is something you can do before the presentation or before the conference, but as you add them, they will stay here and it'll simply say show, or obviously I can't show the blank document because it's already showing. But let's say I wanted to toggle back to the presentation, I would just click show. A cool feature that you can use here is the start a poll option. So if you're on a particular slide, I should say, and I had this question, explain why each graph is misleading. Now, this particular PowerPoint wouldn't be helpful because I put the answer right here. So what you could do is just change the format of your presentation, and you could ask, or you could ask verbally, or you could type out the question on the PowerPoint, is this graph misleading? And you want students to answer. Yes, of course, they could type in their chat box. However, you can also start a poll. And when you click Start Poll, you have different options. You can click Yes, No, and that essentially means that students will be given the option to answer yes or no. You can click True, False if you wanted to ask a true, false question. If you wanted to give options, A, B, C, D, multiple choice, so on and so forth, you could do that. If you wanted to give a custom poll, you could just simply enter those choices and then start the poll. So if my question for this particular slide was, is this graph misleading? I would then see, and I clicked Start Poll, I would then see live poll results. And students, from their perspective, they would have a window that pops up and asks them to click either yes or no. And once they do, then their answer would show up in a percentage. And then you can also, if you just want to know this information yourself, you would simply click Close. So once all students have answered and you just want to get a feel for how the students understand that particular question or concept, you could just close it. If you want students to see their results, you could click Publish, and then the results would stay on that slide, just at the bottom right-hand corner, which is pretty cool. So if you were to go forward and then go back, you would still see those percentages there. And those are the basic presentation tools. Next, we'll go over the chat feature and the status icon. The status feature is a nice tool to keep students engaged in the meeting. If you go to the Users window, to the bottom left-hand side, you will see the icon with the hand that says Update My Status icon. And students will have this view. You have it, but so do the students. They will click on the hand, and then they will see different options. So if they wanted to raise their hand, if at the beginning of the course you were asking questions and you just wanted them to practice, or you did want them to raise a hand when they had a question, they would select the hand, and then you would see that hand in the status bar, and then you can clear that once you're done. If you wanted to add a smiley face, you could do that. There is a neutral, a sad, a confused. There's also an away status. So those are your status options. Over here on the right-hand side, we have our chat box. And this will, the way the layout is set up here allows the chat to be next to the presentation. If you wanted to change the layout, you could have more of a presentation meeting, and that would show, it wouldn't show the users, and it would show the chat or the webcam. This might be nice if you don't necessarily need to see the list of students in the course, or if maybe while you're presenting, you just want them to focus on the presentation. There's the lecture assistant, and this is where the chat is the largest, the presentation is at the side, and the users are fairly prominent. There's a lecture itself, and that's where they can only see, or you can only see, the presentation. There's the video chat, which we wouldn't use, is the webcam, unless you're doing some sort of presentation and you need to see the students or you want them to see your face. There's a webcam meeting where you have the chat and you have the presentation, but then the webcam would still be here. Again, I don't think too many instructors will use that feature, but that is an option. So I'm going to stay at the default layout. And you have your box here, and this is where you would type. And you see it timestamps, and it provides the the user's first and last name. So earlier in the video, and if you're watching this as an independent video, you'll know that we did set the viewing options so that the private chat was disabled, which means that students cannot privately chat with one another. With the public feature, they can still interact with one another, but you as the instructor, even if I do have the private chat disabled, I still have the ability to send a private chat to a student. If there was a student in this course, you would see their name here, and then it would basically allow you to just type out a message to the student. Now, because the private setting is disabled, the student would not be able to respond to you. They would just be able to get the notification that you, the instructor, messaged them. So if you wanted to say, I appreciate your feedback, however, right now you're off topic, please make sure you stay focused. The student isn't able to respond, they can just acknowledge, or they wouldn't even be able to acknowledge. They would just read that and they would toggle back to the public option. You can change the font size, and students can change that as well. And if they want an audible chat notification, they could change that too. So that is the public. Now I will show you how to share your screen. Now this can be a little tricky, so it's important that you pay attention to the smaller details of screen sharing. First of all, you will definitely want to be using Mozilla Firefox in order to share your screen. Chrome will simply not support the shared screen feature. If you are already in your chat, in your conference, and you logged in with Chrome and you realize that you won't be able to share your screen, you can go to your Firefox browser and log in. So you would just have to log in through Schoology, and you would still be able to access the chat. And you would then close the chat in your Chrome or your Safari browser. So it is possible mid-session to switch from Chrome to Firefox if you need to. But right now I'm in Firefox. So if I want to share my screen, up here we have Share Your Desktop. And then it looks like I'm using Chrome after all. Isn't that funny? So this is actually a great opportunity to show you how to switch. That's just too ironic. So if I go to Firefox, here's Firefox, and let's see here. This is the meeting that I'll log out so that you can see what you would have to do. So you would log in and you would go to the course, BigBlueButton, and you see it's in progress. So this is the meeting. So you would simply enter, and I know I've said simply probably 17 times in this tutorial, so I apologize. I'm going to join with a microphone, and I'm going to close out of this one. So this was my Chrome window. Close out of that. To do the audio test again. And I'm still in here. I'm still a presenter. So see, that wasn't too bad. Now what I'm going to do is share my screen. Share your desktop. In order to actually share your desktop, and this might just be dependent upon your computer, your actual machine that you're using. With my Mac, I don't have the ability to share my desktop until I click full screen. So it might look a little different depending on which type of machine you have. So if I click full screen, then the pop-up comes and allow this to run Java, and I'm going to click allow. And I'm going to say allow now. Adobe Flash will say allow and remember. Java, it said block, but I'm going to change that to allow now, and I'm going to click OK. And then you'll wait a minute, and then a menu will come up asking you to run Java. Do you want to run this application? And I'm going to click run. You are now sharing your desktop, okay? And I can see in my presenter view what is shared. When I can minimize this, maximize it, and when I close, that would mean I close my shared screen. And that is how you share your screen. When you've finished your presentation, first you'll want to remember to stop the recording. So you would go back to the record icon and click stop recording and click yes. Then you may be tempted to click log out because there's an arrow and a door. However, first you want to toggle back to the course, and it says in progress, so you'll want to click end conference. If you were to log out, the conference would still be in session, and it would be possible for students to remain in the conference and communicate. So do not log out until you end conference. And if you notice in the tab, if you click back here, it just takes you back to the course. So the conference is over. There's no need to even log out. Eventually, you could click completed and you would see the conference that we just completed. It takes, BigBlueButton says it takes a couple minutes for the recording to show, so you wouldn't be able to see that instantly. And from here, you would just go on